And joining us here on the Gold and Blue Nation podcast is the seventh round pick of the Athletics in this year's MLB draft, Logan Sauve, and his father, a former MLB draft pick in his own right, Jeff Sauve. Guys, congratulations. I'm sure it's been a fun couple of days here. How's it going?
Good, Ryan. Thanks for having us.
Of course.
Thanks, Ryan. It's been great.
I bet it has been. So, Logan, let's start with you here. Take us through draft day and what that experience was like for you.
Yeah, so I'll start with the first day of the draft, which was Sunday night. Knew I wasn't getting picked that day, so kind of just followed all the picks and was just hoping that the A's didn't pick a catcher, which they didn't, so that was all good. And then Monday morning, got a text from my agent, and he said they were working on a deal from rounds 5 to 7 with the A's. So got excited there, got my hopes up, and then round 5 and 6 were silent. So started to get a little nervous, but then got a call later in the 6th round that I was got a deal with the A's in the 7th. So got pretty excited.
So you knew as far ahead as the 6th round, then the 7th round is where you were going to be going, and the A's, as long as no one else pulled kind of a rabbit out of their hat then. So, we see the moments all the time on social media during the NFL draft of players getting that phone call from whether it's an agent or the team or the coach, whoever. Take us through that phone call when you finally get that call and you see it pop up on your screen. I mean, I'm sure that was a pretty surreal moment, huh?
Yeah, it was awesome. I was sitting there just laying on the couch with my girlfriend was next to me and my best friend was to my left, so wasn't really expecting much, just hanging out, and my phone started ringing. And it was just like an instant sigh of relief that I knew something was going on, because he told me before the draft, he said, if I call you, pick up the phone. That means something's going on. So super incredibly blessed for the opportunity that the A's gave me, and I'm just excited to get to work.
Was it always the A's, you think? Was there another team that you felt really strong interest from, or was it pretty much the A's from the start, you think?
There were some other teams that we heard before the draft that would be right around the 10-round range, but knew the A's were front runners from the start.
So then, Logan, we're talking with you today right after you signed at least part of your contract with the A's. I know you were saying that the rest of that kind of process will pick up here in a couple of days once you get out to their facilities. So, I mean, an easy decision to sign with the A's at this point, knowing you still have one more year of collegiate eligibility left?
Yeah, it was. I knew that last year I could get better, so went back to school for another year. Knew I had a great staff. And West Virginia's been great to me, so knew that I'd be able to get stronger and boost my stock a little more. So it all worked out perfectly.
So Jeff will bring you on here in a second, but Logan, I do want to ask you, so 7th round, 200th overall. Is that about where you were expecting kind of going in? I know you kind of got tipped off there in the 6th round, but was that about where you kind of thought maybe you would go prior to the draft kicking off on Sunday? Earlier than you expected? What do you have there?
No, that was right about where my agency and I talked about. They did a really good job projecting and talking to all the teams throughout the draft. So they pretty much what they predicted was where I went. So it was all good.
So, Jeff, let me ask you kind of that same question as well, but maybe from the parent standpoint, but also with your baseball background and your knowledge. I mean, Logan, a 7th round pick, is that about right? Did you kind of feel he was going to go earlier than that, maybe a little bit later than that? Where were you kind of on that?
No, I mean, I would agree with what Logan said. Any of the meetings or calls that we had, with his agents, over the last couple weeks, that's exactly where they predicted him was. We knew that there was probably 5 or 6 teams that had him somewhere between the range 5 and 10, rounds 5 and 10. And then we knew that there was a whole pile of teams that had him, between probably rounds like I would say 8 and 15, and then the rest of them like 12 to 20. So we kind of had a pretty good idea of where he was to go. The only thing we were concerned a little bit about was, we had been through the draft twice, once out of high school and once last year, and strange things happen, crazy things happen. People become available, players become available and undrafted in rounds where, it kind of messes up your draft. And we've experienced that in the past. So that was the only thing that we had to be a little concerned with. But, like Logan said, about 2 minutes before the draft started on day two, we got a call from his agent saying that they were in talks with the A's between rounds 5 and 7. So that was pretty exciting.
And I'm sure that's got to take a little bit of the pressure off things, right? As you said, anything can happen on draft day. We've seen that in all these different sports. But when you get that call ahead of time that, okay, this is about the range we're looking, this is the team we're looking at, I'm sure that gets you a little bit laser focused in there, also taking some of the pressure off. Jeff, for you, you've experienced this draft before from the player side of things as well. 1995, you get selected in the 11th round by the Red Sox. Can you compare and contrast your experiences, 95 draft and this year's draft? Can you compare those for us?
Sure. So it is a little different. And, back when I was drafted in 95, the draft took place during the College World Series. And it just so happens, which was a month ago, right? So June 5th, I believe, is the day that I was drafted. And so it just so happens that, Clemson was in the World Series that year and the draft was going to take place. And so we knew that there was a bunch of players on our team that were going to get drafted. So the coach called a practice and we actually got out of the hotel and went to I think it was a local high school field. And we just had a practice just to get everybody's minds away from everything. And I'll never forget it. There was two players. One was drafted in the first round. One was drafted in the second round. So they got their calls before we left the hotel. And then we went to practice. And soon as we pulled in the hotel from practice, I mean, everybody ran up to their rooms to see if the message light was blinking. We didn't have cell phones. So of course, my message light was blinking, and I called down to the front desk, and the guy said, "Is this Jeff Sauve?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Congratulations, you're the 11th round pick of the Boston Red Sox." So that was kind of my experience. My family had already known; they had called the house. Logan's experience was a lot different. A month later, and he was surrounded by family, which was really neat. That's what he wanted. And so everybody, there was probably, I don't know, 25, 30 people here, and everybody got to experience that once in a lifetime moment with Logan. So that was pretty neat.
So then, Jeff, can you give? It's just so different circumstances, right? As you just kind of laid out there for us. Were you able to give Logan any pre-draft, I don't know, advice maybe, or are the experiences so different at this point? I mean, as you said, Logan wasn't in the middle of a game when he gets drafted, so. Is the experience is so different that it's hard to maybe pass on advice at this point?
You're exactly right, Ryan. They are so different the way the draft works now. I think when I was drafted, there might have been 60 rounds. Now there's only 20 rounds. So it's a lot harder to get drafted in today's MLB draft than what it was when I was playing. I would also tell you that Logan was probably a lot better prospect than what I was, to be honest with you. So mine was kind of a surprise that I got drafted in the 11th round. And, Logan has had a great career at West Virginia and a better college career than what I did at Clemson. So we had some expectations. I think the only advice that I gave him or that we talked about was, just don't get super excited because, even though his agent was working on a deal in rounds 5 to 7, that easily could have slipped to rounds 11 or 12. And, we would have been all too familiar with that. So.
Sure, for sure. Logan, I'll have a question for you here in a second, but Jeff, got to ask you this. It's a very small percentage of the baseball community that can say father and son both drafted in the MLB draft. Can you just even put into words how special it is to be part of that group, Jeff?
It even goes back a little farther, Ryan. I had an uncle that was drafted out of University of Maryland by the Red Sox. My cousin was drafted a year ahead of me by the Texas Rangers.
Wow.
So we had a little bit of family history there. And obviously I wanted to live that experience like they did. And, when Logan took a liking to baseball when he was a little kid, that was obviously a dream of mine as a father who played at that level, and a hope for me that, hey, maybe he could be better than me someday. And even though I got an opportunity to play in the minor leagues and professional baseball, maybe he'll be better and get a chance, and maybe I can, give him some guidance and some wisdom to get to the big league someday. So that's always been a hope and a dream for me. And so I couldn't be more proud of him, what he's accomplished and how he's handled himself. And to be honest, he made an incredible decision playing at West Virginia under the coaching staff that they've had and playing with the players that he played with that pushed him each and every day to get to this point.
And we'll certainly talk about Logan and your time there at WVU here coming up in a minute. But Logan, a similar question for you then, but to be able to carry on the family legacy, so to speak, of continuing that lineage of MLB draft picks and draft players, but then also having that unique father-son connection, right? That you and Jeff do have. How special is that for you from your perspective?
Yeah, it's a dream come true for sure. It's something my dad and I talked about. My whole life growing up was, how cool would it be to get drafted and such and continue on my baseball career and hopefully make this my career the rest of my life and play in the big leagues for a long time. But it's really special.
And then sticking with the draft, at least for just another second here, Logan, pretty cool wrinkle there in the 14th round, right? Where your new franchise also takes your battery mate in Griffin Kern there in the 14th round. I'm not sure if you guys have had the ability to talk yet or what Griffin's situation is at the moment, but how cool is it that potentially you guys could be teammates going down the line here and kind of continue that success that you all certainly had with one another here this spring during the college season?
Yeah, we used to joke all the time. Obviously, Griffin and I became really good buds, and we talked all season about how cool it would be to be teammates again at the next level. And it was more of a joke that time, but it was crazy when he got his name called by the same team. So now it's for real. So I called him right away, and we're both super happy for each other and look forward to playing with each other at the next level.
Where does Griffin kind of stack up? And I think we might have asked you this during the regular season too, but where does Griffin kind of stack up among guys you've caught, especially at WVU? And you've certainly had some really good pitchers to catch in your time there. And what makes Griffin, a guy that can go on from a D2 school where really no one knew who he was, becomes D2 pitcher of the year, and now he's a bona fide guy in a Power 5 rotation in an MLB draft pick. What makes Griffin special?
Yeah, he's one of the top guys I've caught for sure. He just has a bulldog mentality like no other. So he always wants the ball. He always wants to compete, and he's going to give you everything he's got. And most importantly, he's a super hard worker. So everything he earns or everything he's given, he earns. So super happy for Griff.
So I got to ask both of you guys, Jeff and Logan here. Logan goes in the 7th round. Jeff, you were in 11th round. Now, you did say earlier Logan's a better pro prospect than you were. Logan, does it feel good knowing you got one up on your dad there? Does that feel good?
There's not many things I can beat him in, so this might be one of the first. But no, we haven't talked about it at all. It's just super incredible to get an opportunity and super blessed to get an opportunity to play with the Oakland Athletics. So,
Jeff, is there any competition there? Was there any competition there maybe going into this draft, this process?
Absolutely none at all. I'd have it no other way, to be honest.
So, Jeff, as a former pitcher, and you certainly know with your experience what a good catcher is and what he can do behind the plate for a pitcher. Give us a little bit of a scouting report on Logan. What makes him a good catcher, especially defensively, and what he can do there back behind the dish?
I was fortunate enough to be able to throw to my high school catcher and a childhood friend the whole way up through college at Clemson, and he was unbelievable. And he was a catcher much like Logan, where the staff wanted to throw to Mike Eidenberg, and we would go to our coach and say, we want to throw to Eidenberg. We want him to catch. And I think that's no different than the situation Logan has put himself in that he understands how to control his staff, Ryan. He's an incredible blocker, and I've always known that. And, he's worked his tail end off to get his arm strength up the last couple years, and he's improved his throwing. And, I would say he's a better than average hitter, as a catcher. So he kind of does a little bit of all of it. And obviously there's room to improve in all aspects of the game. And he knows that to get to the big leagues. But that would be my scouting report on him.
So you mentioned he's a better than average hitter. I was going to ask you to break down Logan's swing a little bit. What have you seen from him? And certainly from the time that maybe WVU was first on his radar and vice versa to now, obviously Logan's gotten a lot better. How have you seen that swing transform over the years?
I just think they've done an incredible job at West Virginia as a coaching staff, working with him in his swing and getting it shortened up a little bit. So I think he's short and quick to the ball. He's an alley to alley guy, gap to gap guy, and from I would say his sophomore year and his junior season, he's shown more power with each season. So he's starting to leave the yard a little bit. So I just think a physical maturity, getting stronger. Sort of, I call it man strength. Mm-hmm. And I think there's more in there yet, to be honest with you. And just learning how to have an approach at the collegiate level against the better arms, because the arms that I watch every weekend are absolutely incredible.
So, Jeff, what you just said right there about Logan's power is a perfect segue into something I wanted to ask you, Logan, about your hitting abilities. Jonathan Mayo, who's one of the MLB draft gurus and experts that they have that's really big into prospects and things like that, one of the things he said right after you were drafted was that he thinks you have more raw power in your bat than what you've displayed up to this point. Kind of sounds like your dad feels the same way. There's some untapped power in that bat of yours. I mean, do you feel the same way? Is there more that you are going to be able to get out of your swing?
Yeah, I do. I definitely think there's more in there. Obviously, just every year I'm going to get stronger and continue to work hard in the weight room. So.
When I walked into the practice, it was very welcoming and very comforting. I was nervous, but it was easily calmed down within the first couple minutes of being there. The staff, from the doctors to the receptionists to the nurses, are fabulous. It was very fast, and it was over and done with before I even knew it. My recovery was wonderful. My overall experience was flawless, from the consultation to the actual removal day and the healing process. Anyone that would need their wisdom teeth removed, I would highly recommend Mountain State in the Charleston area.
Searching for a mortgage lender that's 100% local, personal, and focused on home loans? First Green Mortgage has been serving West Virginia for more than 35 years, and they can assist you with every step of your home ownership journey. Visit them in Bridgeport or Morgantown or at fgm.bank.
Have you swung a wood bat very much? I mean, I know that's a big transition that some guys have to make offensively. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, we have. I enjoy swinging it. Obviously played travel ball growing up, and a lot of the travel ball tournaments now you have to swing wood. So
gotcha.
It's a good starting point, I'd say, in travel ball, but I do enjoy swinging wood.
When I was in high school, and I wasn't nearly the player that either of you guys are, so this is, I don't even know why I'm bringing this up, but I always liked a wood bat a little bit better. I felt like I could feel exactly where the ball hit a little bit better on a wood bat. I don't know if you feel the same, Logan, or not, but that's how I always felt.
You're pretty spot on with that. You gotta focus in maybe a little harder than you do with metal, because there's no cheap hits for sure with wood.
Exactly. So another thing, aside from getting drafted, that you guys have in common, which we've talked about with you guys before, but it's certainly worth mentioning again, is that, Jeff, you played under Randy Mazey at Clemson while Randy was starting his coaching career. And then obviously, Logan, you played for him at WVU in the back portion of his coaching career. What's it like being the only father-son duo that Mazey has ever coached? Jeff, if you want to start us off here, you can. Then Logan, we'll get to you and your response after that. But what's it like being that only father-son duo? How special is that for you guys?
I mean, Logan and I talked about that all the time. I mean, that is, the biggest reason why Logan ended up at West Virginia was he had a comfort level and thought it was pretty cool that he would get to play for, one of the coaches that I played for at Clemson. And I always had, when Mays was at Clemson, as a player, we always had the utmost respect for him, knowing that he had played at the level that we were all at, and that he was actually able to get drafted and play at the professional level, which is something that we as college athletes were trying to achieve. So, Mays is a legend in college baseball. He's one of the greats. He really is. And he'll go down as one of the all-time greats. And the fact that Logan and I both got to play for Mays was very special to both of us and always will be.
Logan, how about you?
Yeah, just following what my dad said, Mays, I wouldn't be where I am without that guy today. So super thankful for the opportunity that he gave me at such a young age to continue my baseball career at West Virginia. I still talk to Mays on the regular basis, so that goes to show the friendship that we made and the friendship he makes with all his players. But Mays is incredible and, more importantly, a better human.
So obviously, Jeff, as I mentioned, you see Randy at the beginning of his career, and then Logan, you get him at the very end of his career. The evolution of Randy, and Jeff, you can obviously speak to this a little bit better than Logan can, but Randy's evolution as a coach and as a mentor and as someone to have on your side of the dugout, I mean, can you put into words not only what Randy was able to do, but then you guys have the perspective as a family of being on both sides of that?
Yeah, I mean, I just think, he went from, being probably a grad assistant coach to an assistant coach at multiple different places and some top baseball programs, and then gets offered this job at West Virginia that really at the time really did not have a great baseball program. And I think the story goes that he sat down and said, if you'll build me a new stadium, I'd be interested. So the university backs him. And here we are today, 2 back-to-back super regionals. He brings in an unbelievable coaching staff underneath him and Coach Sabins, and who actually ended up recruiting Logan the whole way up through when Logan, all the way back to 8th grade. And so, and then, Mays got out, when he felt it was best for the program to get out, probably because he was going to lose Coach Sabins because he was an up-and-comer as an assistant coach and getting interest from all these other schools to become a head coach. So he does the right thing and says, hey, it's time for me to get out. It's time to do the right thing for West Virginia baseball. I want Coach Sabins to take this program over. He knows the culture here. He helped build the culture here. And, he's legendary that way. He's made all the right choices. He built a program from scratch. From the family perspective, he is a family man. Always hugged my wife every time we came into town. He had a chance to see, and that's just the way he is with everybody. So he was an incredible asset and always will be to West Virginia University.
Logan, you first, I'm assuming, meet Randy when you're in 8th grade, and then you get that scholarship offer in 8th grade, and then you're pretty much connected to the university from that point on. Speak to how your relationship with Randy has kind of changed and evolved over the years. And then as a second part to this question, from the time you were offered that scholarship in 8th grade to where you sit now, where have you seen the biggest growth in your game? I'm sure it's all over, but where do you think you've gotten maybe better the most in your game since that time?
Yeah. My camera just flipped. Hold on. Let me fix it. There we go. I think to start, just Mays and I over the years, coming from the connection with my dad, always felt super comfortable around Mays. And he was always someone that I could talk to. So it was nice knowing that when I'm at school, I feel comfortable having somebody that I can go talk to if I need anything done. And then I'd say from my game standpoint, obviously getting stronger and everything, but I'd say I'm most impressed with my hitting. That was something that I knew that I needed to get better at. And I felt like I did a good job over the 3 years, and thanks to all the coaches and the staff to help me become the hitter I am today. But that's where I feel like I've stepped up my game the most.
So between playing for the same coach as your dad, winning 2 NCAA regionals and going to 2 super regionals, being named all Big 12 catcher, a couple multi-home run games there at the plate for you, and among all the other things you did, when you look back at your WVU career, Logan, what moments or accomplishments stand out to you the most at this point?
Yeah, I'd say getting first team Big 12 was memorable this year. That was a goal that I told my dad from the beginning of the year. That was something I wanted to do, was become all conference and put my face on the wall in the facility there. So I was glad that I was able to reach that. But I've hit a couple homers in my career that are memorable for sure. But there's a lot of memorable pieces of that career, not only just about me, but more as a team aspect and winning 2 regionals and going to 2 super regionals back to back. And I made memories forever that I'll never forget.
Which of those home runs is the one that maybe is the most memorable one to you?
The Clemson one stands out to me, obviously just because that's where my dad played, and then it was cool to be able to hit a home run in that stadium while he was there.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's a pretty easy candidate there, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Jeff, I mean, I don't know, maybe this is too easy of a question given Logan's answer there. What is your favorite moment of watching him at WVU? Is it the home run versus Clemson or in that stadium?
If I'm being honest, Ryan, it was the whole weekend at Clemson. It really was, because I haven't been back to Clemson for quite some time. And a lot of my teammates were there. And I got to share and go out to dinner and just hang out with everybody. You know, Coach Leggett is still one of the coaches there. He sat with me in the first row and watched the first game against Kentucky for 7 innings, watching Logan play and just talking and catching up. And, you know, my family, I think there was 18 people that made the trip to South Carolina to watch Logan play at Clemson, including my parents. You know, and they're in their 80s, and it's not the easiest to get around for them. And my brothers brought them down there and made sure that they were comfortable and got to see Logan play where I played. So that whole weekend for me was by far the most memorable weekend of Logan's college career for myself.
That's so special. That is so cool, and I'm very happy for you guys that was able to happen, especially in that town, in that stadium, and yeah, that's very cool. Logan, again, maybe this is an easy question to answer, but it's worth it asking, I think. Winning the first regional there in 24, winning this year's regional, and advancing in 25. Does one feel better than the other? Is one a little bit more special to you?
They're both special for sure. I might say the first one felt better just because that program was something that Mays has built, and Coach Sauve and all the other rest of the staff has been working so hard to continue to put that program on the rise, and it was something that we got to do to make history. So nobody expected us to do that, and I know nobody expected us to do it again last year. So that's why the culture they built there is so special, because we always play with the chip on our shoulder, because we believe that we can do everything that we've done, but nobody else believes in us, and we always get ranked lower than everybody, but it makes us work harder, and that's what we like to do. We like to prove everybody wrong.
On that note, and this is a question for both of you guys, Logan, I guess I'll have you start. Where is this WVU baseball program going? You know, Steve's obviously fully ingrained there. He's got a full year plus under his belt as head coach now, back-to-back super regional appearances. Logan, from your perspective as a player, and then Jeff, obviously with your baseball knowledge and now seeing it from the parents' perspective, where is this WVU baseball program headed?
I got all the faith in the world that Coach Sauve can take that team to Omaha within the next couple of years. He's the best recruiter that I've ever known, and he continues to get solid players into that program, and he's continuing to build that program up. So I could see them in Omaha very soon.
Jeff, how about you?
I mean, I'm not going to disagree with Logan. I mean, they're getting close. They're getting closer and closer every year. You know, just barely missing, you know, a piece of the puzzle every single year. And the coaches know that they're working their tail ends off to finish the puzzle. The indoor facility that they just built is going to be an incredible asset to help them. You know, they're going to get to Omaha, and it's going to be fun to watch. And I'm going to be happy for all of them.
And I really do think whenever that time comes, whether it's, you know, next year, 5 years from now, whenever that may be, I think other college baseball fans are going to be surprised at how many WVU fans show up to that, because it's, you know, you guys know as well as anyone, it's been building, and you Logan especially know how the fan support has grown. over these several years.
Yeah, for sure. All 3 of my years, we set attendance records.
Yep.
We broke it sophomore year, and then we broke it again last year. So we're the best fans in the country. I have no doubt about that.
Couple here more for you guys, and I really appreciate you all coming on the podcast with us. Logan, what are you going to miss most about between WVU baseball and just being in Morgantown and being around those guys? What are you going to miss most about that?
Yeah, I think just the friendships that you make and the memories you make. You see those guys every day for pretty much 365 days straight, and you're all working towards one goal, and that's to be a national championship and make it to Omaha. So, definitely going to miss that for sure.
So, Logan, have the A's given you any indication about what's next? I know you still have to go out and meet with them and finish, the legalese side of things, I guess, which you'll get well acquainted with here over the coming years. But have they given you any indication of what's next or where you might be headed?
Yeah, a little bit. Obviously nothing's in writing or anything, but I've talked to them a little bit. They like me, so we'll see what happens. Go out there and just get off to a good start and see what they do with me.
I mean, thinking the one of the coast leagues or instructional leagues to start off, or maybe straight into low A. Have they given you any of that indication yet?
They've mentioned something about low A, but nothing's confirmed yet. So just got to go out there and work and see what they do.
Got it. Okay. And then, Logan, I was looking at this earlier today. Kind of something unique. So at least on your baseball profile there for WVU, it says you're from Boiling Springs, Pennsylvania, right?
Yep.
What would it mean to you in your town to be the first MLB player from Boiling Springs? I looked it up. There has been no MLB player from Boiling Springs, PA. What would that mean to you and to the people back home?
It would mean a lot. There's a lot of good baseball talent that comes out of our area, and a lot of good players. So there were people honking their horn when they were going past the house, and a lot of texts. So I think it would be pretty cool.
People honking their horn because they know they got a draft pick next door. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome. Jeff, I mean, one final word here from you. You've been through this, experience from start to where we are now with Logan. Can you put into words, I guess, just how proud you are of him and what it means for him to get to this point in his journey and now to see him off into that next phase, that next level?
He knows how proud I am of him. Everybody in my family, my wife, Danny, and my daughter, maybe one of his biggest fans, Maddie. So we're all super proud of Logan. We know the work that goes in that nobody else sees or knows about. And that's not just Logan, that's all the athletes. And I'm just super appreciative as a parent and as a dad of a college athlete that he got to experience West Virginia University, and that Coach Mays and Coach Sauve believed in him, and he got a shot. Jagar, his catching coach, worked tirelessly with all the catchers, not only Logan, and just made him better. And it was nice to watch the progression from his freshman to his sophomore to his junior year. And I'll never forget, Coach Mays and Coach Saban's, telling Danny and I and Logan when he was getting recruited that, a college baseball player that comes and plays at West Virginia can experience all these great things, and they can all become pro baseball players out of West Virginia University, just like they can as if they were going to LSU or playing at one of the big SEC schools. And that is the experience that Logan had. And as a dad and a parent, I'm just super appreciative of WVU. And I can guarantee you one thing right now: you'll see Danny and I in those stands at some point next year.
Well, certainly because of Logan, there's a few more athletics fans in West Virginia today than there were a few weeks ago. Logan, Jeff, appreciate the time so much. Congratulations once again. And Logan, best of luck the rest of the way. We'll be keeping tabs on you for sure.
Thanks, Ryan. Thanks for having us.